Hi guys, I'm Beth. Welcome to Fix Your Family. This is our Module 9, and today we're going to talk about a very tender subject about gaslighting. I'm here with Anthony. Do you want to say hi, Anthony?
Hello.
Anthony is my trusted partner. We just prayed for you, really anticipating that the education will be meaningful to you as we talk about something that probably I would assume most of you have heard a little bit about. It's a little bit of a trendy word in our culture right now. Gaslighting has gotten some attention, but the reason I added it to this curriculum at this stage of the game, right number 9 as we go through our 12 modules, is that having worked with families for a couple decades, I've come to recognize that this topic of gaslighting seems to show up. And then once the family's educated about what it is, why someone would use these communication tactics when conflict starts to arise, once they're educated, we can really shimmy around potential conflict, identify it, become aware of it, and then close the conflict out with some success. So I don't want you to be intimidated by the word. A lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, this person's gaslighting me. I knew it. You might hear some sentences here as we go through this, and it might feel a little bit alarming at times, but there's no need to be concerned because gaslighting at its core, we'll go through the definition and some things in just a moment, but gaslighting at its core has the intent to simply deflect, to move responsibility off of self and onto something else. So it has a little bit of a fight or flight mechanism to it. So we don't have to be alarmed about it. It's just really helpful as someone who loves someone who struggles with addiction or mental health. It'll be helpful for you to navigate when you start to feel a little uncomfortable in a conversation where you might not really feel safe in a conversation, or you might feel the tables have quickly turned on you. So we're going to learn a lot in this next session. So Module 9, and it says why families need to understand gaslighting. First of all, let's look at the definition. Gaslighting is a communication tactic. That word's important. It's a tactic used to make someone doubt their perspective, doubt their perception of their reality, and it denies facts, it minimizes emotions, and it shifts blame. So there are some studies that demonstrate that someone who's gaslighting is doing it. It's not a subconscious mechanism. It's not a subconscious technique. It's actually something that someone tends to do on purpose. Now, you need to remember that the neurology and the thinking patterns of people who struggle with addiction or are caught in these types of behaviors are operating from a lot of fight or flight processes. So when you bring something to your qualifier and it might feel like you've found something, or you need information from them, or you're in some way, somehow pushing up against them, this is a quick fight or flight. I got to deflect this information off of me. So the quickest way to do that is to bring that back to you. If it works once, it might work twice. It might continue to work. It could be a way to deflect taking responsibility. And once that becomes successful for your qualifier, and you start to feel, I call it vertigo, once you start to feel this kind of sense of, I don't know which way is up. I thought he said that. I thought she said that. Maybe this is really me. If you start to take that on and it starts to work, this could be a tactic of your qualifier. And like I said, when we start to recognize it, we can learn how to shimmy right through it and get back to our reality and our clarity like that. So it is important to recognize that it does have a desire to shift blame, and the person standing in front of them could be you, and shifting blame onto you could be why you might be feeling the way that you're feeling in your conversations. So you might hear some sentences when you're bringing up an important topic to your qualifier that might sound something like, and they're all in the worksheet, well, I never said that. Even though you have clarity, and you heard it just a moment ago with your own ears, you heard the sentence. And had you had it recorded, you could just play that right there and here's the sentence. But your qualifier is saying, I absolutely never said that. And maybe you hear sentences coming back to you. You're just imagining things, even though maybe you looked at the phone and you saw the text with your own eyes, and your qualifier grabs the phone, deletes it, and says, you're just imagining things. Once you start to hear those things over and over, the psychological effects on a person when you're being told that your reality isn't true. Are you hearing that part right there? That's really important. When you continue to be told that your reality isn't true, the psychological effects on someone can be dramatic. So that's why we're having this conversation. We want to make sure that you are grounded in your reality, that you have the capacity to describe things that you saw, talk about things that you heard, and hold on to those. Hold on to your truth, no matter what is being told to you, so that you can feel like the ground underneath you is stable. Okay? You might hear sentences, we call this minimizing emotions. You might hear sentences like, this is actually you, you're just too sensitive. This is all about you. You're just so emotional. This really wouldn't bother other people. This never bothered my ex. This never bothered my mom. This isn't bothering anybody else. You're the only one this is bothering. If you notice, you might be bringing something to your qualifier saying this really hurt my feelings, or I felt very empty this day, or I felt lonely, or this really made me angry. And all of a sudden the tables have turned and now it's about you and your emotions. I'd like to model for you what it could sound like in a relationship where there is responsibility. And I find that sometimes modeling for the family what responsibility sounds like can be helpful. It's kind of like if we had a magic wand in our hand, this is what would be said in a healthy dynamic, healthy relationship. When you bring something to anyone, let alone your qualifier, and you say, hey, can I talk to you about something? This has been on my heart. I've been feeling A, B, and C. The response coming back to that, if there's honor, respect, dignity, unconditional love, those kinds of things, to be able to hold the space for another person's emotions demonstrates a high level of emotional intelligence. So it'd be wonderful if we had a magic wand in our hand, if our qualifier said, oh, well, I care about that. I don't want you feeling that way. And what would be some things that I could do that would be meaningful to you so that I could help remedy that? You see that? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice, Anthony? Yeah. We're all after that. We're all after being seen, being heard, being validated, right? That's kind of like a beautiful offering from anyone to validate your experience. You're sharing an experience. You had an experience. And you get to have that. Did you know that? You get to have your experiences. You get to have your thoughts. You get to have your feelings. You get to experience moments as they happen for you. You're entitled to that. That's part of us as family members coming out of the codependency. Our codependency, as we've learned in a lot of the other modules, is that we're convincing for our validation. We're hoping someone else, God forbid, sees our experience and validates it for us. And what we're really learning how to do is to claim our experience and to have it be very valuable to ourselves. And ideally, then the second step is that we have someone on the other end who's willing and able to do that. So that's what that should sound like, ideally, if we've all got a magic wand in our hand. But sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes we hear things that are a little bit different. Maybe you're hearing, I'm going to give you a handful of examples on what gaslighting can sound like. Maybe your qualifier says to you, this is not a big deal. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maybe you've heard that. And maybe you've checked yourself and wondered, maybe that's that vertigo I'm talking about. Vertigo is when you just kind of don't know which way is up. It's like emotional vertigo. And maybe you question yourself, maybe this isn't a big deal. Why do I keep feeling like things are a big deal? And my loved one says to me, this isn't a big deal. Why is there such a differentiation between my perception and my qualifier's perception? Shifting blame. That's another tactic of gaslighting. That's another way someone can gaslight. You made me do this. It's actually you. Well, you're the one that keeps making me upset. You're the one that's making me do this to you. This wouldn't have happened if you weren't always nagging me. I'm going to go through a handful right now, so hang in there with me. Constant contradiction. That's not how it happened at all. You're remembering wrong. You're remembering the whole thing wrong. It didn't go that way at all. You're just paranoid. You're just making things up in your head. And maybe as I'm saying these sentences, and maybe if you've been in this situation, this is where I have a lot of compassion. And I want you to know that because this is happening, all we're doing right here is getting the awareness that we may be getting caught. That's a really important word. We may be getting caught in conversations where things are being turned on us. And we're going to learn how to spot it and then also find our clarity. And we're going to kind of ground into our truth and be able to navigate around it with ease. So if a lot of these are ringing true for you, I have a lot of compassion on that. And that's why the Recovery Foundation, the Family Recovery Foundation is here, is to bring some education so that we can really recognize that we can change things that could be a little bit challenging in these complex relationships. Or maybe your qualifier, another tactic of gaslighting is withholding information. Maybe diverts the whole thing. I don't even know what you're talking about. And then walks away and just kind of disarms the whole thing, tries to disarm the whole thing, leaves you hanging, doesn't engage in the conversation, or says, we're not having this conversation at all. That can be a form of gaslighting, turning it back on you. You always ruin the night. You always bring up things that are not a big deal. Why are you even bringing this up? You know, and those can be really overwhelming when there's been a moment of vulnerability. Maybe it took you a lot of courage. We have a lot of people right now in the Family Recovery Foundation who have been through the curriculum and are going through it again. And they're with a lot of courage going to their qualifier and maybe for the first time in even 20 years saying, I need to talk to you. I haven't been okay. And when there's vulnerability like that and transparency, and it's like all the courage of you haven't mustered up the courage to do this your entire life. And then if it's turned on you, you know, there's a lot of painful feelings there. So there's also projecting. That's important to recognize that your qualifier may be projecting on you really strongly. May say to you, you're lying. That's not true at all. Where all of a sudden you brought up something and all of a sudden you're being called the liar. Turning it significantly. Maybe there's something that you found out about your qualifier and it was hurting your heart. And as quick as you say it, your qualifier says, no, that's actually you. You did that. And that can be a little bit confusing to you as well. Maybe it's so fast, so deflected. Like I said, it's like we call it a fight or flight response from your qualifier to get that energy off of them and put it right back on you. Maybe you say something like, you've been lying so much and that's been overwhelming for me. I've been having a hard time getting my bearings, and your qualifier smacks back verbally, no, you're the liar. And that could be very disheartening and painful. Gaslighting has a tremendous emotional impact on families, and it can allot for tremendous anxiety, confusion, and after a while, after these systems get set up, and if the gaslighting is pervasive in a relationship, the person on the other end of this conversation can end up really deeply questioning their reality. When the qualifier is saying so many times, no, the person may be left trying to figure out what's even real. Those struggling with addiction may use gaslighting to deny their substance use and to create this cycle of manipulation. And like I said, if it starts working, this could be a tactic to deflect chronic relapse pretty quickly. And if it works once, it can continue to work. So if you find paraphernalia or your loved one's under the influence and you're asking questions to them and it constantly comes back to you, no, you're crazy. No, I don't know why you keep doing this. This is why the foundation is offering these educations, because the loved ones, the person who loves someone who struggles with addiction, gaslighting can really show up in these conversations. Because in the beginning, before a loved one gets educated, are you hearing that? Before the loved one gets educated, these types of tactics tend to work. But now we're getting educated. And we want to be able to show up for our qualifier in our best way. And if we're showing up for our qualifier in the best way, we finding our clarity is offering them the best opportunity for their health as well. Are you hearing that? Our clarity projects back to our qualifier their best opportunity. Because when we're firm in our truth and not easily dysregulated, then we're creating a firm foundation in the relationship that projects back to the qualifier, I'm unwilling to take the responsibility and I'm offering it to you. And then, like we've been learning with codependency, then it's up to the qualifier. They have a choice right then and there to either stand on the firm foundation of truth or to run with the dysregulated emotions, the behaviors that are manipulative. That will be their decision. I love offering our qualifiers. I love offering people who are struggling with addiction and mental health a firm foundation. Isn't that wonderful? We can provide them with clarity and invite them. Can you picture that? It's like we build this firm foundation of truth, we stand on it, and then we invite them. You're more than welcome to stand on the truth of this firm foundation of clarity, and we can work on it together. Let's do it together. I'm more than happy to do that with you. But I refuse to step off of my clarity and to join something that completely is not my truth. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that as family members. So let me give you some sentences that have been really successful for family members who are struggling with gaslighting. Now remember, a lot of these skills too can be helpful in your other relationships. Maybe you have a boss that does this, or maybe you've got an adult child who isn't your qualifier. Maybe you've got a best friend, or maybe you've got someone in your life that you tend to feel this sense of vertigo. Here are some sentences that have been helpful for families. They're really simple. And when you hear them, I'm really confident you're going to feel skilled when this shows up in your conflicts. You can literally say, oh, that's okay. We can have different perspectives. I remember it differently. Isn't that nice? Isn't it nice to just be neutral and to offer perspective? Did you know that your loved one can have their perspective? They can not remember it. They can feel it was different. They can deny they said it. That's okay. Did you know that that's okay? A lot of times our codependency postures to get someone to believe our truth. We don't believe our truth unless someone believes our truth, or we're posturing to convince someone of a reality that we believe. Did you know that you can do that very differently? Did you know you can offer anyone, let alone your qualifier, their perspective and say, that's okay. We can agree to disagree. I heard it differently. And that's it. I heard it differently. And since I heard it differently, I'll be thinking about it and think how I want to respond to that. You don't even have to know the answer right now, but you can close the conversation by saying, hey, let's pause. You heard it really different than me. I'm real clear on my perspective and we can just agree to disagree. You can also say, this is how I experienced it. You experienced it different. Offer that. Offer their experience and you can have yours. Now, when you're in the middle of the back and forth of the gaslighting and you feel emotionally bombarded and you start to get on adrenaline and you start to feel overwhelmed, you might, on the third one down on the examples on your worksheet, you might need to say, I need some space right now from this conversation. I'm feeling very dysregulated. I want you to know it would make sense that you might feel very dysregulated, because if you heard something and someone's denying it, I want to honor that feeling. That can be very overwhelming. And it's okay to pause the conversation and take some space. You can take ownership. I'm stepping away from the conversation. I don't feel good about it. I will pick up. Do you hear how I'm using I language? I will pick up the conversation when I'm ready and walk away and go make dinner, go mow the lawn, go do the thing that you need to do. My hope would be you would choose to get some space so that you can find your way back to self. Here's a few more. When I feel contradicted, this is something you can tell your qualifier when things are calm. Hey, I want to let you know lately I've been feeling quite contradicted. So in the future, if I feel that way, I want to let you know I'm going to pause the conversation and take a break. There's a few more in here, but I'll close with this one. I respect your perspective. Did you know you can respect a perspective that you don't agree with? That's super important. The way, my hope in teaching these communication strategies is to help you disarm and to get a new cadence of respect in your relationship. And when you offer perspective, offer your qualifier's perspective, you give them dignity. And I know that can be really hard sometimes when you're feeling the way that you're feeling. I recommend you try it and experiment with it. It's your highest self. It's your best move forward in this relationship. It's like your best foot forward, I should say. So maybe you say something along the lines of, I respect your perspective, but I need to validate my experience. So for me, the conversation's on a pause. Do you hear that? I'm giving you your validation. I see you. You can have your perspective. And for me, I'm going to need to take a break from the conversation. Permission to do that. So setting emotional boundaries for yourself could be really important. Maybe start to get aware of your body when you're in the middle of a conversation. And if you start to feel dysregulated, check in with self. Is this starting to feel like it's turning on me? And if it is, then you can say, hey, let's pause. I'm feeling different than you. I heard it. I saw it different. You can have your perspective. I can have mine. And then if this continues to happen, where you're in a relationship where there's two completely different perspectives happening consistently, this would be a great opportunity to possibly get with a sponsor, get with a therapist, and get some additional support as you make decisions accordingly. This should be, and I'd like to offer this to you from a clinician standpoint, this should not be a lifestyle lived. Are you hearing that? My hope for you is that this wouldn't be a lifestyle that's lived, that you wouldn't have to operate in parallel perspectives for the rest of your relationship, that there'd be times where you can come together and maybe here and there you saw things different, but that there would be someone. My heart for you is that there'd be someone on the other end that can hold the emotional space, taking responsibility, being able to validate your perspective, and then God's grace, move towards change. And when we're both doing that in a relationship, that could be our heart's desire of what we're looking for in the first place. So if this is consistent for you, definitely consider getting with a therapist and getting additional support. I think finally, just wanting to look at empowering yourself and your family. That's the last part of our worksheet. Affirming your reality, trusting your instincts. Isn't that beautiful to be able to really live life trusting that higher self? Your instincts are likely on the money. And to learn how to emotionally regulate, when you have an instinct that something's not right and then we posture to try to prove that, that's where we find ourselves in trouble. But when we start to recognize a difference of perspective, a difference of perception, and we emotionally regulate, pull back, observe, get safe, and get regulated, that's where the sweet spot is. That's where we as the family members are healing. I also am hoping that you're working on your self-care. The more you are finding your way to meditation, going on walks, having conversations with people that are reciprocal, that are validating you, seeing you, treating you with a reciprocal type of respect and love, exercising, eating good food, getting sunlight, cold water therapy, journaling, all the things. The more we are drawing focus on healing self, when these moments happen, when there's a potential opportunity to recognize gaslighting, you'll be prepared for that. If you are dysregulated, high stress, not eating well, not sleeping, and you feel like you're already coming undone, it's very hard to regulate in the middle of a gaslighting episode. It's important to be at our whole healthy self so that when these moments come, we can quietly, you're hearing that, get quiet, remain calm, stay neutral, offer perspective, and find our way to a new conversation. Lastly, have these conversations with the rest of your family. When the family is operating with skill sets like this, then we can have some headway. Talk to your family about it. Everybody can sit down and have a conversation. You can have a conversation with your qualifier and say, hey, I'm working on something. I'm noticing that a lot of times you feel very different than me. So I want to let you know in the future when this happens, I'm going to be honoring your perspective, but I will not be fighting for mine. You hearing that? Sit down, have that conversation. I will no longer be fighting for my reality. I'm practicing and learning how to hold mine. So in the future, if I feel like we're on different pages, I'm going to pause it and move towards something that's more pleasing because I want to have a good night. You can have these conversations ahead of time with your whole family, with your qualifier, to set yourself up and your loved ones for success. The last thing I think I want to close with is I definitely recommend that when you find yourself in a moment like this, that you don't say to your qualifier, "You're gaslighting me." I don't recommend you do that. That's going to, Anthony's smiling, that's going to kind of exacerbate the conflict. And you guys have heard me teach a million times, confrontation incites rebellion. Okay. So we don't want to confront, "Hey, you're gaslighting me. I learned about this. I watched a video." Don't do that. Just recognize it internally. Your compassionate self can recognize, "Oh, my loved one's deflecting because I heard what I heard. I saw what I saw. I found what I found. And my loved one's afraid and deflecting." That's our truth and mercy. Remember that? The mercy is the compassion. If you'd like, you can offer in your heart the compassion there. And the truth is, I refuse to participate in things that don't match my value systems. You hearing that? The mercy is, "Oh, my loved one's deflecting." And the truth is, I don't participate in things that don't serve me. And when we are denying something that is true, that's not serving me. Do you hear the gentle tone there? I love you. I see you. I can offer you your perspective, and I am no longer willing to kind of betray my own reality. Okay? So I hope you find your way to experimenting a little bit. Observe it, draw back, become aware of it, offer the perspective, and move on, knowing and finding this cadence for you that your truth is your truth. And I'm confident that your instinct is going to guide you here. I want you to feel steady. I want you to feel clear. I want your reality to be yours. And maybe we can exchange fighting for that by honoring it for self and then moving towards really, really good days. I want that for you. We'll see you on the next module. Bye, Anthony.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye, guys. See you next time.